Arabs. Bayt al-Maqdis is in the heart of the Middle East, surrounded by Arabs. But who were the men who raced to liberate it in the Middle Ages? It was men like Mawdud, Imaduddin, Nuruddin. They were all Turks. They were all Turks. Yusuf Tashfin was a Berber. Nizamuddin Mulk was a Persian. And Salahuddin Rahmatullah alayhim ajma'in, he was a Kurd. He was a Kurd. Because they felt that it was their duty, that they had to liberate the lands, because they felt that they were an ummah. And Salahuddin was born in the fort of Tikrit. And his mother mentioned that when I was pregnant with Salahuddin Rahmatullah alayhi, I saw a dream that in my stomach I have a sword from the swords of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the amazing thing is that the day Salahuddin Rahmatullah was born was the day that his father was expelled from the fort of Tikrit. His father ran the fort of Tikrit, and his uncle Shirku killed one of the guards because he dishonored a lady. And because the governor of Baghdad disliked his father, he had them expelled. And the narrations mention this was the day that Salahuddin Rahmatullah alayhi was born. And they mention that on the journey, his father thought that Salahuddin was a source of misfortune, and every time he would cry, he would break out in a fit of rage. He wanted to kill him. Until one of the servants said, "Oh my master, do you think misfortune came because of this child? Look at him. He cannot assist, nor can he harm. This is the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." How amazing are these words. Because for Salahuddin Rahmatullah alayhi to attain what he was destined to attain, he had to leave Tikrit and go to Mosul. Because see, great men create other great men. The greatest of this ummah were the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. And the Sahaba sat at the feet of the greatest of creation sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Because he did their tarbiyah. And the place that they were destined to was Mosul. Mosul was run by Imaduddin Zinki. Imaduddin Zinki. And Najmuddin, the father of Salahuddin, had assisted Imaduddin when he was being chased by an army. He took him into the fort, and then he kept him there, and then he provided a safe passage for him. And therefore Imaduddin never forgot this. And when Salahuddin's father reached there, Imaduddin took them in with open arms. And he hosted them. And he also realized the great men that he had received. Because Shirku and Najmuddin were military men. They were warriors. And this was the environment in which Salahuddin Rahmatullah alayhi was brought up in. It was a military environment. There was never a day when the expulsion of the Crusaders was not mentioned. But it was not only a military environment. It was not a dry military environment. It was a very religious, spiritual environment. Because Imaduddin, listen to this. Imaduddin and Nuruddin were the founders of the madrasa system. They found the madrasa system. It was the madrasa system which created men like Salahuddin. If there was no Imaduddin, no Nuruddin, there would have been no Salahuddin. And Salahuddin, from a very early age, he became a Hafid of the Quran. He was a Shafi in fiqh, and he memorized Kitab al-Tanbih of the Shafi school of fiqh. You ask me, how many Hanafi ulama sitting in the gathering? How many Hanafi ulama in Birmingham? How many of them know one matan of a Hanafi text? Salahuddin memorized it all. And his greatest aspiration in life was to become a scholar. He loved the scholars. Throughout his life, the men that he respected the most were the ulama. And when Imaduddin passed away, Salahuddin was still young. Then he had the honor of being tutored by a man regarding who Ibn Athir Rahmatullah alayhi says, I have studied the lives of the Khulafa, and I've studied the lives of all the kings. And since the Khulafa Rashidun and Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the Muslims never had a man who was as upright and caring and compassionate as Nuruddin Zinki Rahmatullah alayh. Meaning, for 450 years the Muslims never had a man like Nuruddin Zinki Rahmatullah alayh. And Salahuddin would say that Nuruddin is my master. He modeled himself on Nuruddin. And as I said, if there was no Nuruddin, there would have been no Salahuddin. As a poet says, he said, Kam taraka al-awwal lil-akhir. He said, how often somebody else sows the seeds, and he does all the root work, and those who come later, they reap the fruits of it. And also Nuruddin realized the potential in Salahuddin, and this is why when in Damascus crime became rife, he made Salahuddin at a very tender age in charge of the entire police of Damascus. And as a poet says, he says, and then Salahuddin worked on the people and he brought peace back to Damascus. And the poet says, he says, he's speaking to the thieves of Sham. He says, رويدكم يا لصوص الشام فإني لكم ناصح في مقالي إياكم من سم النبي يوسف رب الحجا والجمال فذاك مقطع أيدي النساء وهذا مقطع أيدي الرجال. He says, oh thieves of Sham, hold on, take it easy. My words of deep admonishment for you. Beware of the one who has the same name as the Prophet Yusuf, because Salahuddin's name was also Yusuf. The Yusuf, the Prophet who had insight and who was beautiful. But the difference between the two is that the Prophet used to cut the hands of the ladies. And what this means is when the rumor spread that Zulaykha, the honorable woman, fell in love with a slave, the other honorable women began to say, what kind of woman is she? She fell in love with a slave. So what Zulaykha did is she gathered all these women and she gave them a fruit and a knife, and she told them, cut the fruit. And then she told Yusuf alayhi salatu salam to walk past. And Yusuf alayhi salatu salam was walking past and they were cutting the fruit. And when they saw the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salatu salam, they became so immersed in the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salatu salam that they cut through the fruit and they began to cut their fingers and they did not even realize. And this is what the poet says, فَذَاكَ مُقْتُ عَيْدِ النِّسَاءِ وَهَذَا مُقْتُ عَيْدِ الرِّجَالِ. For that use of the Prophet, he cuts the hands of the women. As for this Yusuf, he cuts the hands of the robbers. And after a while, when Salahuddin grew up somewhat, Salahuddin meant the Crusaders attacked Egypt. And what a deed the Caliph in Egypt did is that he cut the hair of his wife and he sent it to Nuruddin. And this meant that we can no longer look after our women, assist us. And Nuruddin rahmatullah alayhi didn't want to assist them because see, the Al-Adid and the Egyptians were Fatimites. The Fatimites were Shias. And they were not only Shia, they were a very decadent nation. When the Crusaders took Marot or Noman, they killed 100,000 Muslims. The Tafurs actually cannibalized young children. The vast majority of people who were killed out of the 100,000 were deprived of water. They died thirsty. And what did the Fatimites do? They actually sent a delegation to the Crusaders to actually congratulate them. Because the people that they had killed were Sunnis. They congratulated them. So Nuruddin didn't want to go, didn't want to send an army. But Shirku, the uncle of Salahuddin, convinced him. And Salahuddin rahmatullah alayhi says, when my uncle came to me to take me to Egypt, I didn't want to go. One, because his aspirations was to become a scholar. But second, he mentions, I thought I was going to die. As Allah says, in the Quran, وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. It is a possibility that you will dislike something. But there's good in it for you. And by Allah, Salahuddin going, there was good for the ummah. There was good for history. He changed the landscape of history. And Shirku rid Egypt of the Crusaders. And shortly after this, Adid remained the Caliph, but Shirku became second in charge. After a while, Shirku passed away. And the ulama and the fuqaha, they chose Salahuddin rahmatullah alayh as in the place of Shirku. And therefore Salahuddin rahmatullah alayh became the second most powerful man in Egypt. He was only 32 at the time. And Salahuddin showed what a real leader should be. He removed all the taxes which were contrary to the Sharia. He established Sunni madrasas everywhere. There were only Shia madrasas. He established Sunni madrasas. By the time Al-Adid was passing away, Salahuddin made an announcement that after tomorrow, from now, Egypt will be Sunni. The historians mention no two rams locked horns.